Where I want to go is expansion, and a major problem I see with the idea of expansion as constituted right now. When the playoff goes to 12 teams, you're going to have 6 automatic bids, meaning the 6 highest ranked conference champions will be in the field. You say, well, that sounds pretty good. You might say, this is what we want. This is how we want to give access to other teams. Using the AP Top 25. Pete, do you have one of those in front of you right now, or can you call one up?
I have an Associated Press Top 25 directly in front of me. Okay. I am accidentally prepared.
Okay, so for this exercise, we're not making any predictions. We're just saying, let's say this were the end of the season, right? So the 6 let's use the AP poll. The 6 highest ranked teams, we'll dub them conference champions for the sake of our exercise. Sure. That means Georgia goes out of the SEC. Ohio State from the Big Ten. Clemson from the ACC. TCU from the Big 12. UCLA from the Pac-12. That's 5. Well, we still have another conference champion spot open, so we have to find that 6th highest ranked conference champion, do we not?
We sure do.
So we scroll, and we land on number 21, Cincinnati. Terrific program, made the playoff last year, but they're the 6th highest ranked conference champion. So the access crowd, they're happy, right? Or are they? Because who does that leave out? That's the next question. Okay, so now with the 6, you have 6 at-large bids. So we'll use the poll in the same way. So Tennessee gets an at-large bid. Michigan gets an at-large bid. Alabama gets an at-large bid. Ole Miss gets one. That's 4. Oregon gets an at-large bid. And Oklahoma State gets an at-large bid. Your field is full. Who's left out? Number 12, USC. Is that what we want? I mean, some years this is going to be fine. Some years you're going to have a team like Cincinnati last year. You're going to have a Coastal Carolina, whoever it might be, a team that, you are okay with. But there are a couple of problems with this, Pete. One of them is that by the end of even this year, and we won't use this formula this year, but it's instructive.
Yes.
The 6th highest ranked conference champion might well not be ranked at all by the end of this year. That's one thing. And the other thing is that Cincinnati is headed to one of the other conferences next year. Sure. I think this is a major flaw. It's going to rear its ugly head when you least expect it, and people are going to be mad. And they can see it coming right now. And what they need to do is establish a threshold. I think it should be in the top 12, but if it's not, that's fine. Even top 15, top 20, somewhere, there has to be a line of demarcation to make sure that all of the 6 highest ranked conference champions are worthy. Do you agree or not?
So, Rece, I agree. I am generally a fan of thresholds, but with the way that the new paradigms that we're going to be in with Houston, BYU, and Cincinnati leaving the group of 5, is it fair to put now? Should there be a threshold? Yes. Is it fair to say top 12? Probably not. Right? Like probably not, especially because the Power 5 is going to stop playing in the group of 5 pretty soon. Once you game this out, a few more years, just as conference schedules bloat and such, there's going to be less opportunity for those smaller schools to go and get a scalp from one of the bigger ones. So while I certainly don't think like some Bandit Conference USA champion ranked 29th should, some hypothetical Kennesaw in 2034 should make the playoff. I also think there has to be an element of fairness that it's not too top heavy. So I agree with you in theory. I think it's an interesting exercise. I do think as we enter conference season, some of the bloat of, all these teams are going to play each other and lose, right? Like, Ole Miss is going to play Alabama, et cetera. Like two Pac-12 teams should make the playoff this year if they sort of keep their strength. Now, when UCLA plays USC, that's probably an elimination game, right? And, depending on what happens this weekend. So I don't think there's going to be I think every 12th ranked team would actually be a pretty interesting exercise to go back and look at the past 10 years and see who those teams are. I don't think they'll be as deserving maybe as this USC team is right now that has just lost one game and slipped down. But I do think there is a flaw. You have perceived a flaw, and it's how do you think the needle should be threaded? But I'm also, I don't know if I'm in the access crowd, but I'm in the business of fairness and opportunity, right? I don't want half the sport to just be off frozen in a nuclear winter. I want that half the sport. I want 60 teams to have a carrot to sprint for. I don't want in the NIL era to say, oh, you can't go star at Boise anymore. You got to go to Oregon State because they don't have a chance. I just feel like this playoff was constructed to keep 1 to 130 vibrant. And I'm a fan of keeping 1 to 130 vibrant, just like I'm generally a fan. Again, you and I talk about this all the time. We can't root, right? But I root for like healthy conferences. I root from Miami to Los Angeles, from Seattle to Boston. I want everything healthy and vibrant because that's better. Like, it's a national sport. It needs to stay a national sport. And I do think that though the other leagues, as they're being reconstructed and sort of twisted through turnstiles and realignment, need to have a viable, attainable carrot. You can't say, I don't think 12 is fair. That's my instinct from hearing your take.
Well, I'm sort of I do think that I think fairness is what you earn. Sure. And it's easier to navigate your way through some of these other conferences than it is the major ones. That's always been true. Which conference is the most difficult to navigate changes over periods of time. For a while in the early 2000s, it was the Big Ten. For a long time, it's been the SEC, but it's never been the Sun Belt. And so I don't like giving.
Could be the Sun Belt soon, though, the way the Sun Belt's going.
Well, maybe so. And it's been good. Yeah. Maybe that was not the proper example, but my thing on the threshold is this is probably tied to my belief that I don't think there is going to be a 1 to 130 long term in this. I think it's going to break away and be more like 1 to 70 or 1 to 75 because there's not much in common among these upper echelon schools and the ones that are hovering around the 130. I love it as much as anybody when, the Sun Belt school, when Appalachian State goes to Kyle Field and wins. That's awesome. Sure. I mean, we all love that because, unless you're an A&M fan, obviously, and again, not rooting for it. When you do what we do, you like good stories. Oh yeah. And sure. that makes for a great story. And I acknowledge that 12 is probably too strict a cutoff, but I said that to make the point that I have been a fan of best teams get in, not, conference champion can break ties or whatever. Are you one of the 4 best teams in the future? Are you one of the 12 best teams? Once you get to 12, more cases than not, if you won your conference championship, you have a reasonable claim on being one of the 12 best teams, whether you are ranked, 14 or whatever.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.